When it comes to Disney, many people think of Mickey Mouse, princesses, and magic kingdoms. Yet there's a darker, but equally iconic side to Disney. Through the years, Disney has amassed quite a pantheon of famous villains, and no matter how cruel, deceptive, or just plain evil they are, almost everyone has a favorite. In this video, we're ranking Disney villains based on power. Under consideration were any villains in the company's animated canon. No Pixar, no live action. And we aren't talking about power simply in terms of physical or magical strength, although those are important factors. However, we reviewed the influence of their position, ability to manipulate, and their overall malevolence too. Here's our ranking of Disney villains from strong to practically unbeatable. If you know her famous anthem from 101 Dalmatians, you know that if Cruella DeVil doesn't scare you, no evil thing will. Her last name spells devil after all, and it turns out that may be a good description for this eccentric fashionista. Cruella's passion in life is fur coats, and most recently she's come to covet a fur coat made of Dalmatian puppies. Unlike many Disney villains, Cruella has no magical powers. She isn't physically strong, and she doesn't wield immense social influence. What she does have is a single-minded focus on her goal and an unending pit of cruelty. When it comes to evil deeds, doing away with 99 puppies in the name of being on trend is towards the top of the list. Anyone who's watched her as she's become increasingly unhinged while chasing after those puppies will never forget how terrifying she is. When it comes to pure awfulness, Cruella is one of the worst. The Lion King's Scar observes that while his brother Mufasa got the power and the strength, he was gifted with intelligence. Yet, Scar isn't satisfied with his lot in life. He covets what his brother has, and his resentment of Mufasa's position as the King of Pride Rock drives Scar to take Mufasa out. If that weren't enough, he also scares away his young nephew by blaming him for what happened to his father. Scar would never have been able to ascend to the throne without some serious behind-the-scenes maneuvering. He maintained his place in the family, so he was able to carry out his evil scheme. He also kept the truth about what happened to Mufasa and Simba a secret for years. No one suspected him, even as he destroyed the Pride Lands through his negligence. Scar may be intelligent, but his desire for power and glory make him ruthless and homicidal. Mother Gothel is the villain in Tangled, Disney's take on the tale of Rapunzel. Gothel is a witch, but her magic isn't exactly formidable. It mostly revolves around Rapunzel's hair, which she uses to keep herself young. What makes Gothel evil though is her treatment of Rapunzel. She kidnapped the girl when she was a baby and has kept her locked in a tower since, jealously guarding the source of her power. Yet Gothel doesn't use magic to keep Rapunzel there. She uses good old-fashioned manipulation. She convinces Rapunzel that she cares for her, and since Gothel is the only mother Rapunzel's ever known, she becomes attached to her captor. She even believes that Gothel is only trying to protect her from the dangerous world outside her tower. Until Rapunzel rebels on her 18th birthday, Gothel manages to keep her ruse going. Anything to serve her own vanity. In most contexts, Beauty and the Beast's Gaston would be dismissed as a muscle-bound meathead. In Belle's Little Village, however, Gaston is considered the cream of the crop. Respected and listened to by all the villagers, Gaston has an inflated sense of his own importance. In fact, he so rarely hears the word no that when Belle turns down his marriage proposal, he lashes out in horrible ways. Not only does he have Belle's father committed to an asylum when he asks for help, he also assembles a mob to go after the beast. His pride won't let him listen to reason or experience sympathy, and his incredible strength makes him confident that he can take on the beast. Ultimately, it's that pride that's the key to his undoing. Claude Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame is imbued with immense power as Paris's Minister of Justice. It's power he abuses throughout the movie. He oppresses minorities and even attempts to take a baby's life. Fortunately, the Archdeacon of Notre Dame intervenes before he can follow through. Instead, he's forced to adopt and raise the child Quasimodo as penance. Frollo keeps Quasimodo isolated in Notre Dame for his entire life, telling him he won't be accepted by society because of his deformity. Quasimodo's one appearance outside the cathedral proves Frollo correct. Yet Frollo doesn't help when he sees his adopted son suffering. It's Esmeralda who steps in on his behalf. Frollo lusts after Esmeralda, but when she spurns his advances, he tries to have her burned at the stake. Not exactly the kind of person you want as a public servant, huh? Alice in Wonderland is a pretty bonkers movie, and one of the most bonkers things in it is the uber-powerful Queen of Hearts. The Queen of Hearts rules her kingdom with a rage-fueled desire to have everything exactly the way she wants it, and her subjects cower at her slightest displeasure. They even paint the white roses red to attempt to cover up a potential flower-based catastrophe. The Queen of Hearts catchphrase is, "Off with their heads!" A go-to that illustrates her solution for pretty much everything. Dozens of people have lost their lives that way because of tiny missteps. No one as out of touch as the Queen of Hearts should be able to wield that much power. Yet her power goes completely unchecked, inspiring terror, even in a bizarre world like Wonderland. In Mulan, Shan Yu was the epitome of might makes right. The leader of the Hun army, Shan Yu was unyielding in his fight for his side. His battlefield abilities were so impressive that he seemed almost superhuman. He was amazingly strong. He was an expert in many forms of fighting. He could track his enemies based on minimal information. He could even sense the presence of nearby Imperial scouts. Plus, he survived an avalanche, emerging from the snow with barely a scratch. With that set of skills, Shan Yu didn't need an army behind him to come across as amazingly intimidating. Shan Yu represents the stakes of China's conflict. And he doesn't care if Mulan is male or female. He is more than willing to fight her when she gets in his way. Fortunately, Mulan also proves to be the one person who successfully stands up to him, ending his reign of terror. YZMA is the advisor to the Emperor in the Emperor's New Groove. Since the Emperor, Kuzco, is an arrogant egotist, he pays more attention to his own needs than those of his kingdom. That leaves YZMA to her own devices most of the time, yet YZMA longs for more. Her attempt to take over the kingdom doesn't go exactly as planned when she ends up turning Kuzco into a llama instead of poisoning him. Despite the potion mix-up, she gains control over the throne surprisingly easily. Although she'd prefer to be seen as a sorceress, YZMA is actually a very talented alchemist whose potions turn people into animals of all kinds. While she's willing to fight for her position, most of her plans rest on another potion. And as powerful as those potions are, that makes her plans pretty inflexible. Dr. Facilier from The Princess and the Frog wants everyone to know that he's got friends on the other side. That makes him one powerful voodoo witch doctor. While he's often called a charlatan or a faker, his powers make him capable of just about anything you can think of. That includes conjuring objects out of thin air and using tarot cards to glean people's desires. From the perspective of the characters in the movie, Facilier's most noteworthy achievement is turning Prince Naveen into a hopping amphibian. Facilier aspires to rule New Orleans with his dark magic. By enlisting the voodoo spirits in his quest, he almost manages to carry out his diabolical plan. He's been messing with forces even more evil than he is though, so when the talisman that harnesses them is broken, Dr. Facilier finally gets his comeuppance. During Aladdin, Jafar goes through several levels of power. When the movie starts, Jafar is the Grand Vizier of the Sultan of Agrabah. As the Sultan's main advisor, he already has a great deal of influence over the kingdom. And when the Sultan tries to go against Jafar, he uses his handy snake staff to hypnotize the Sultan into agreeing with him. Yet, like any good villain, that's not enough for Jafar. He wants to become the Sultan himself. Eventually, he gets a hold of the genie's lamp. He uses his first wish to finally become the ruler of Agrabah. With a being as powerful as the genie at his disposal though, Jafar realizes that he should be thinking bigger. So he wishes to become the most powerful sorcerer in the world. As a sorcerer, he is terrifying enough already, but Jafar has been driven mad by his desire for power, and that proves to be his fatal flaw. Aladdin points out that the genie is way more powerful than he is. So Jafar uses his final wish to become a genie. Whoops. As a genie, Jafar does in fact have phenomenal cosmic power. Yet there's one big drawback. The genie's gig comes with an itty-bitty living space, and even if Jafar escapes his lamp, he'll have to do the bidding of his master. Jafar really didn't think this one all the way through. The Evil Queen was the original villain in Disney's very first full-length animated feature, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And over 80 years later, she is still striking fear into the hearts of moviegoers. As the ruler of her land, the Evil Queen is already immensely powerful. If that weren't enough, she's also fairly adept at magic. In addition to all of that power, the Queen is also immensely vain. She even possesses a magic mirror that reassures her that she is the fairest of them all. Until she's not. When she realizes her stepdaughter Snow White's beauty has surpassed her own, she sends a woodsman to end her life. When that fails, she creates a poison apple. She then transforms herself into an old crone to trick Snow White into taking the deadly fruit. Sure, her vendetta against Snow White is awfully petty, but there's no denying this villain's strength. CHERNABOG, the winged devil from Fantasia's Night on Bald Mountain sequence, isn't as well known as many of the other villains we've already discussed on this video. Yet he's actually one of the most powerful villains in Disney film history. CHERNABOG summons spirits and sets them loose to wreak havoc on the town below. The character is based on a Slavic deity referred to as the Black God. Unlike most villains, CHERNABOG doesn't have any clear goals or plans. He mostly just wants evil things to come out and terrorize the land of the living. And as the embodiment of evil, the character is said to have unlimited power. However, he's only able to come out at night. When daylight appears or when he hears the ringing of church bells, he's forced to retreat back to where he came from. The Little Mermaid's Ursula is a sea witch whose power is known throughout King Triton's territory. Yet while she claims that she benevolently helps legions of poor and fortunate souls with her magic, the truth is a little different. While Ursula makes an awfully compelling sales pitch, she's been taking advantage of desperate merfolk for years. In her garden, she houses the shriveled polyps of all those who signed contracts with her and couldn't deliver on what they agreed to. Ursula's ability to manipulate, deceive, and cajole folks into bad deals is the power that she relies on most. Yet her magic seems almost unlimited. Over the course of the movie, she takes Ariel's voice and transforms her tail into human legs. She also transforms herself into a beautiful human woman, makes herself huge, and starts a raging thunderstorm. With that much power, she was almost invincible. Literally, the only thing that stopped her was luck. Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty is one of the most popular villains in the Disney canon, and it's easy to see why. Her regal looks and demeanor belie her evil ways. Yet no one in the kingdom where she makes her home is confused about the horrible power she wields. When Maleficent isn't invited to the newly born princess's christening, she makes it her business to punish those who would dare to overlook her. She puts a curse on the baby that condemns her to fall into a deep sleep after pricking her finger on a spinning wheel on her 16th birthday. Despite every attempt to prevent it from happening, Maleficent's curse comes to pass, proving her undeniable power. However, curses aren't her only powers. Maleficent can teleport, hypnotize her victims, and conjure lightning. Not to mention, by the end of the film, she turns herself into a huge dragon. This is one dark fairy that you don't want to mess with. Taking the top spot on our list is Hades from the movie Hercules. Hades is based on the deity from Greek mythology, and just like his ancient counterpart, the Disney version is the all-powerful ruler of the underworld. While he commands a vast realm, he's jealous of his brothers who reside over far more desirable areas. So Hades conjures a plan to take over Mount Olympus from Zeus, the king of the gods. Despite the difficulty of going up against other gods, Hades releases the Titans and uses them to capture them all. It's Hades' nephew, Hercules, that ends up foiling his plan, although when the fates predict it, it's bound to happen. Still, given he's an immortal god, Hades is only down, not out. These were the villains we thought were the most powerful in Disney's library of animated films. Do you agree with our rankings? Is there a villain that we left out? Have your say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to The Binger for more content like it. Thanks for watching.